great when JJ cracks up.
I'm just looking at the feedback system that was kind of a ET signal. I'm sorry.
No, I got it.
Anyway, Ellen, you've been at the front lines, all of the top heavyweights. I've known you with John Mack. I've known you with so many other of the great minds of Silicon Valley, members of the space program. I'm just honored to be in your new book, Making Contact. I think it's really the premiere of all the books and really number one in terms of what is truly happening behind the scenes with ET contact. And so it's my honor tonight to introduce you as really one of the great pioneer thinkers on all of the bases, the psychological, the parapsychological, the cosmic, and the spiritual. So we are very honored for this great presentation. And I would say to all of you who are watching us worldwide to realize that Alan is connected with the authentic story that the ETs are here, but let us hold our breath for the ultra-terrestrials because they represent the consciousness expansion of the new self, the Homo Galacticus, that is on the horizon, that is our future in space.
Exactly. Thank you. Dr. Hertog has been a good friend along with Desiree Hertog. And did you want to say something more? No, you don't have to.
No,
you can.
No, but I thought it was very interesting. I don't know if JJ did that on purpose, the way he called it. I never thought of a presentation as a present.
My present. Thank you. Is this working? So yes, I want to talk about a lot of things, including the fact, like JJ said, there are beings here and they're making themselves known to us. And I just wrote this book. What's the matter? I fix the picture for you. No, it's okay. I'll fix it. It's good. Wrote this book. I want to show you a little introduction to this book that here we go. See if you, this is an introduction to the book. Wait.
From deep in outer space to planet Earth. Rocks obsidian. It's a time, an event, a place, a message of making contact.
There's no better time for a forum like Making Contact. I'm George Norrie, host of the national radio show Coast to Coast AM. Alan Steinfeld has put together a well-conceived collection of writings that covers it all. This is a book most needed at this time because Making Contact presents the opportunity for us to prepare to meet advanced civilizations. Someday, somehow in the future, the conflicts that have plagued our species for eons will come to an end. And by making contact, we will take our rightful place among the stars.
Okay. Thank you, George Norrie, who's become a good friend. He wrote the introduction to this book. And this is the, let's see, I have to get out of this screen share here. I want to share this next screen that I want to really tell people about. Let me get the sound optimized. And anyway, thank you all for being here. I know it's not one of the major expos, but it's a good chance for me to practice what I'm talking about here. That's why I do these shows, because I'm trying to fine tune a message along with the Hertogs about what's really going on here as the government comes forward, as peoples have more visions of these other worldly beings, as we wake up to these new realities. And I wrote this book because no one knows what's going on. Everyone has a little piece. That's why the government, I think, has not told us the truth. First of all, they don't know the truth. And what they do know, they're hiding because of technology. They're sort of in bed with the corporations. So these craft are not filling up their gas tank to get here. They're using the fossil fuels that are a trillion dollar industry. And imagine if we didn't need them anymore, what shape those companies would be in. It'd be freedom for the people of the planet, but it wouldn't be necessarily something the multinational corporate elite wants. So This book, though, is about freedom. It really is. And I know Desiree doesn't care for this so much, but I'm going to read the prologue to the book. Oh, let me just do a whole screen share here like this, because I wanted to start this book as a call for freedom. The call for freedom goes back to the abolitionists of the pre-Civil War. This guy, William Ellery Channing, wrote this in 1844. Come on in, guys. And this really represents the situation we're in now as a civilization, as a time in history, as a movement towards an evolutionary consciousness. We are at a precipice. Come on in, come on. Victor, come on, sit down.
I have a table.
I have a chair. Okay, come on in. We are at the precipice of a new time, unfolding of what I call new realities. I've been doing a show called New Realities for the past, I don't know, 25, 30 something years, because I've been trying to figure out what is the nature of reality? Who are we? And you know what? We don't know who we are ultimately. That's why I like to hang out with JJ and Desiree, because they have at least some clue about who they are. And they work that, and they talk about the higher levels of awareness. So this is what we're approaching. We're approaching a new level of human existence. This is not so much about the ETs, it's about us. Come on, sit down, have a seat. And so who are we? What is the true aspect of who we are as human beings? This is what needs to be known. So when I found this quote, this was sitting on my shelf for about 20 years. I needed to put this in a book somewhere. And do you have something to say? Oh,
Where's it coming from? Here?
no, I don't think it's
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Wow.
there. Okay, there. Anyway, I'll put it here. So, yeah. So I wanted to I just wanted to read this to kind of get us in the mood for what we're going to be expecting in the next 20 years. We're coming out of a strange time, right? No one could argue with that. But where are we going? We're not going back to where we came from. There is no going back. You can only go forward. So I wanted to just talk about this little prologue where it says there are seasons in human affairs of inward and outward revolution. When new depths seem to be broken up in the soul, when new wants are unfolded in multitudes and a new undefined good is thirsted for. This is what's coming up in the soul of humanity. There are periods when the principles of experience need to be modified, and when hope and trust and instinct claim a share in the guidance of human affairs, and when in truth, to dare, this is what's up to us, to dare is the highest wisdom. So this is the future. Do we dare to make our own rules? Do we dare to be who we want to be, no matter what other people are telling us to do, no matter what the authority, what the people in charge? Do we dare to live our truth? Do we dare to reach into the unknown for new possibilities? This is what we have to dare to do, is just be ourselves. This is the key to this next phase. Love this quote by H.G. Wells. Civilization is a race between education and catastrophe. Let us learn the truth and spread it as far and as wide as our circumstances allow. For truth is the greatest weapon we have. What is the truth, though? There's only your truth. There is no the truth. There's only the truth of what your worldview and belief system will tell you it is. This is where we need to drop in to the center of our own being and find out that truth. This is the unknown. This is the future. And just to get back to UFOs, this is just Pennsylvania in June of 2020, how many sightings there were just in Pennsylvania. So something's happening to us. We're not being invaded. We're being welcomed into a galactic awakening. No one wants to invade us. They want us to wake up so we don't invade with this negative consciousness the rest of the cosmos. We have been very, Stanton Friedman, one of the first ufologists around, used to say, no one wants to be friends with a bunch of apes whose favorite pastime is tribal warfare. That's us. We've been engaged no matter what country, continent, religion. Tribal warfare has been the preoccupation of humanity. And I think it's time to stop. This is a little, this guy was he Minister of Defense in Israel? He says the UFOs have asked us not to publish that they are here. Well, it's too late. What? Kai Mashad. He was, I think, part of the space program of Israel. He says there's an agreement between the U.S. government and the aliens, and they signed a contract. I don't know about that to do experiments. There's an underground base in the depth of Mars. Maybe, I don't know if I believe all that, but they're here to reach out to us the best way that they can. So what is out there? We can know for sure, according to science, there's 5 times more stars in the known universe than there are grains of sand on all the beaches in the world. Just imagine how much sand you take home from the beach every weekend. That's a lot. But imagine, and every star has at least 1 or probably 10 planets. And life, this is the key to my book, life is not an accident. Life, and this is what we've been told in Darwinian, mechanistic, Newtonian physics, life is an accident. I don't know how it started. That's one of the hard questions of science. How did the universe begin? How did life begin? How did intelligent life begin? Life is an emergent property of existence. It emerges. There's no science that we know of yet that can explain how life emerges, because it's sort of miraculous, but it's just something that comes out of the ethers of existence. Is life. Life is what created life. Consciousness is what created consciousness. So we are an aspect, we're a microcosm of the infinite. That's what we're here to learn. And this is 30% of Americans believe aliens have visited the earth. 60% think the government is hiding something. 17% they've seen something in some of their own UFOs. I'll show you a little clip of some of this here. Let me see.
Capturing the spectacle will help whether scientists and specialists find an explanation for the event.
There's a new video this morning that some say may be proof we're not alone in the universe. A UFO in the form of a bright light is seen descending over the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. The video is said to be taken over the weekend. Then suddenly the light shoots up into the sky. You see it. Another video from a different angle appears to show the light doing the same thing.
And now it is sparking intense debate on the internet. Trace Gallagher following this live from our West Coast News. So the question is, what was that?
Oh no.
There's the question, by the way, Megan, because, you know,
I'm sorry, I don't know
difficult
why
for them to dismiss this because there are so many different angles. We've got 4 different videos, all from various perspectives. They do not know of anything like this.
Okay, this is us. Why is this? Mark, can you tell me we're getting feedback again? Okay. Anyway, I'll just stop here. We're about to enter a bigger fish bowl. Sorry. This is how the ETs speak to each other, though. They really do. Let me just get this feedback. Oh, okay, how's that? No. What's that? I have to turn the volume down. Okay. Let me turn the volume down. What's that? Okay, turn the volume down. Okay. So, let me just, 1 second. Other ways, oh, what did you just do there? Okay, the key to my understanding of UFOs, I don't know. Yes, got it. Okay. Now we're still getting feedback. I don't know why that happened. Okay. Sorry, it's always something.
Hey Alan, leave computer audio from where you have screen shared from where you are sharing the screen. We can't hear you. You are muted. So leave computer audio.
Is that better now? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay, great. We're dealing, this is John Mack, who he's mentioned in my book. He's one of the, what's so important about John Mack is that he was a Harvard psychiatrist, head of the Harvard Medical School of Psychiatry. People started talking to him about their UFO experiences, and he thought, of course, they must be crazy. How could anyone be talking about visitations by little gray beings in the middle of the night? And still, until he started talking to these people, and he found out these people were not any crazier than anyone else. You know, they were actually more stable, and they had this thing that was happening to them. So he said he had two choices. He could stick with the old ways of believing that such things were impossible, or he could modify his worldview, which is what is being asked of us right now as the ET phenomena comes into more of an acceptance. We can say it doesn't exist. I want things the way they used to be. Or we can modify our worldview and say, maybe everything we thought was true isn't true, and maybe energy is real, maybe consciousness is real, maybe there are beings visiting us, maybe we're really interdimensional. So Mack concluded, and I take Mack's lead here, we're dealing with a phenomena which violates our sense of reality, which operates in the gray area between the physical and subjective. These are categories of identification, but they're not categories of experience. Experience is both physical, subjective, and objective. We need a whole new categorization of what experience is. In your dream states, are they real? Are you imagining them? Or do you go to other worlds? Did you have a question? No. Okay. We're being asked to prove the existence, prove it by physical science alone. No one can prove the experiences that you have. If you told me you went to Mars this morning, I couldn't argue with you because that's your experience. So we can't prove anything by the old methods. And Matt concludes here, in his view, the ET, the UFO phenomenon will not yield its secrets until we discover other ways of knowing. That means we have to start to tap into the right brain, this intuitive sense of understanding, the fact that we're energy. You know, it goes back to quantum physics. Quantum physics says it's either a particle or a wave. How can it be both? Well, it is both. It's just that our logical mind doesn't understand how something can be both a particle and a wave. But it is both a particle and a wave. That's the key here. That's the key to existence. Show you another. This picture here, I just wanted to, let me just go back because I missed a few. Other ways of knowing is the key to what I've started to realize. Other ways of knowing, this triangulation of understanding comes down to UFOs, quantum physics, and consciousness. Triangularization means you could prove one thing by accepting the other thing. So where does that lead us? We cannot see the world except through some perspective or a magical framework, in short, some myth. Indeed, the world we see is a myth we're in. Your life is a myth of your own creation. Your history, who you think you are, your name, your religion, your background, that is not real. That is a story you fabricated to make yourself believe you are this person. That is not who you are. You are not your story. You're not your history. You're not your past dramas. You're not even your body. You are the consciousness behind all this. So the idea, if you think you're someone, that's not who you are. There's a great joke in this book JJ and Hertog wrote with Russell Targ in the beginning of the book. It's called The End of Suffering. But in the beginning, there's a cartoon from the New Yorker, and there's a guy at a bar. He's sort of drunk. He's yelling at the bartender, and he says, "Hey, pal, you have no idea who I think I am." That's our problem. We think we're somebody and we identify with it. It's like identifying with your favorite baseball team. Oh, you love that team. And if someone insults that team, it's like they're insulting you personally. It's like someone says something about your mother. It's like it's not, but so we identify with these things to give us a sense of who we are, but that's not real. Would you be upset if someone insulted your baseball team or your football team? That's what people do. You know, there's riots because someone said they didn't like the Red Sox. So I don't really like the Red Sox either. But, you know, but it's a fabrication of the illusion we're living in. So this is what we come in with, this vast imagination. And this is what we're trained to believe the world is. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. This is the left brain totally taking over. And the right brain, the intuitive, the creative, the expansive parts of ourselves are suppressed. There's a few people who escape it, who are artists, who do their own things, like Ed Edwards. He's done his own thing. He's become an artist of his own energy field. So we can escape it. But most people, you know, they sit behind a desk for 20 years, right? What can they do when they graduate high school and college? Is sit behind a desk, become an accountant, lawyer, or whatever it takes a desk to be. But that's not why we came here. We came here to be infinite, creative, expanded beings. We may be in the universe as dogs and cats are in our libraries, seeing books and hearing conversation, but have no inkling of the meaning. This is because we've been conditioned by culture. Terence McKenna says, culture is not your friend because it'll make you into what you want. They want you to believe it is. We are not that. We are great. I'm just going to. UFOs are not about belief. They're about exploration. Some people say, do you believe in UFOs? It has nothing to do with belief. Do they exist or don't they exist? It's not like, is there a God or is there this? Do they exist? What does the government really know that they're not telling us? And they're starting to tell us, which is really the miracle of today's age. Since 2017, New York Times article, December, the government has said, guess what? We have company. And most people say, really? Most people are too shocked or immune or are concerned with their own life to even take notice. But we have company. It's about time we woke up to the fact that they're here. But the reason before this was, you know, in 1903, the Wright brothers were called a pair of hoaxers. Simon Newcomb said it was impossible to have a heavier than air ship fly through the air. He proved it physically. And the Scientific America came out with this article that said it's such sensationally and tremendously important experiments like flying through the air is being conducted in a not very remote part of the body. Is it possible to believe that the enterprising American porter would not have ascertained about them and published them? So it's because they weren't in the newspapers in 1903, it couldn't be real. And if it was real, it would be in the newspapers, and because it wasn't in the newspapers, it couldn't be real. It's that reverse circular thinking. No one had the courage until Theodore Roosevelt performed tests of the Wright brothers' craft in 1906, 3 years after they flew, to prove that this was possible. And now, of course, this whole industries and air flight is just normal. But in 1903, it was impossible until someone said, I don't think it's impossible. UFOs were denied by the US government since 1947, since the crash at Roswell, where at first they said, flying saucer, that's what it was called in 1947, have landed or crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. The next day they said, oh, we were kidding. It was really a weather balloon. And they've done this faking about weather balloons since then until 2017. That's 70 years of lies and denials. So, you know, we're coming to a new time. This is another visionary. I showed him before, but he was a real visionary. He wrote the first book about aliens in a way, you know, what was it called? The War of the Worlds. It wasn't such a positive book, but at least he was noticing there's something out there. He says, a time will come when people will sit with their history before them and with some old newspaper and ask incredulously, was there ever such a time? Such a time where people made war, where people invade other countries, where people would ignore starvation, ignore, you know, homeless, ignore all the things that hopefully in the future with free energy, won't be a reality like it is now. We have a chance at this moment in history to change the future, or we can continue down this path towards a dead end, or take a new path towards a new vision of reality, like my friends the Hertogs talk about. This is the truth of our time. And this is the headline I'm talking about. If anyone hasn't seen this, December 16th, 2017, no longer in the shadows, Pentagon's UFO unit will make some finding. This is part of this whole release of. But let's just go back a little bit. This was the first craft seen by Kenneth Arnold, 1947, June 24th, about a week or two before Roswell. He saw these craft skipping over the kind of atmosphere from going south from Mount Rainier. Let me just go. This is about the Senate Intelligence Committee report that came out in June 25th. This is a key headline. Navy confirms the existence of unidentified flying object. They confirmed it. Like, no question about it. It's there. It's real. Who are they? What are they? Where are they from? Well, they don't have anything to say about it, but at least they, oh, this was actually the headline. Glowing auras, black money, $22 million was given by the Senate for this mysterious UFO program. So this is a little bit of that here. Is there a little?
Says he saw that day. November 2004, the Navy fighter pilot was on a training mission west of San Diego when he was ordered to check out something in the water not far away. On a clear day, over a smooth ocean, he saw the object, waves breaking over it, and says he saw something hovering above it.
It's randomly moving north, south, east, west, just random, just stopping, going the other direction, like you could do with a helicopter, but a little bit more abrupt. It looks like a 40-foot-long tic-tac with no wings.
Fravor says he and his four-man team tracked the object for several minutes until it just disappeared.
Right, that's what they call the tic-tac. That was, and there's this whole thing. I'm just reviewing a little more recent UFO history for people that are new to this. And so there's this whole thing, investigations, and there's like this new report coming out. It's confirmed something's going on. Yes, we do have company. Harry Reid, the Senate majority leader at the time, gave money. He says it's an extremely important information about the discovery of physical material. But what do they have to offer us? Well, they have to offer us a new technology, a new cosmology, a new biology. Why is this being suppressed? Why is our freedom being suppressed? Because there's a bunch of people who want to keep things the way it's been. And we're here to wake up the world. After looking at this, I came to the conclusion the reports that were substantive, and they're actually materials that the government has. So there are pieces of UFO craft. So the name UFO has now been changed officially from unidentified flying object to unidentified aerial phenomena, because these are not objects. These are things that influence. This is Hillary Clinton declaring why. This is kind of interesting. This is when she was running for president. And
when we had your husband, President Clinton, on this show, he said, I asked him about UFOs in Area 51, and if he looked in, because if I was president, that's the first thing I do. I go right into those files and see what was going on.
Right.
And he said that he did do that.
Yes.
And that he didn't find anything.
Well, I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah, why not?
Right? And there's a new name. It's unexplained aerial phenomenon.
Unexplained aerial phenomenon, really?
Yep, UAP. That's the latest nomenclature.
I like the old one. I like UFO. I don't know why.
Well, I think we can use them interchangeably, but I would like us to go into those files and hopefully make as much of that public as possible. If there's nothing there, let's tell people there's nothing there.
What if there is something there?
Well, if there is something there, unless it's a threat to national security, I think we ought to share it with the public.
Exactly. She's like, obviously someone told her to say that because she says, oh, I think you could use them interchangeably, but you really can't use them interchangeably, because what we're finding out now, these are not just objects. They can distort time, space. They have an effect on our psychology, our physiology. There's sometimes synchronicities that happen, sometimes miraculous healings that happen. There's things that happen in the presence of these objects that make them more than objects. They make some phenomena. So, yeah. So this is a phenomena. This is something that that we don't understand the actual aspects of the phenomena. So this organization that was formed by the government was called ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. That was the public, and they spent $22 million to find out what's going on. You can see here, cognitive human interface. That is not just a cognitive human interface, human effects. These are not objects only. These are things that are affecting us, and this has also been kept undercover. And there's wormholes. This is a paper done by Eric Davis, who's really key. If you're into disclosure, you want to know who Eric Davis is. Okay, this is Eric Davis said right here in July 24th, 2020, he briefed the Defense Department agencies recently in March of 2020 on retrievals from off-world vehicles not made on this earth. This is what he told the Senate committee. We could not make these ourselves. So it's out. Eric Davis has seen these things. There are off-world vehicles in the government's possession. What we need to do is stand up as a citizen population and demand to see the evidence, the truth. We want them to roll out the craft and the bodies. This is not about national security. This is about lies, about technology funneled to multinationals to keep us in a way suppressed and kind of a slave to energy, partly. Okay, so where are we going with this? Now,
It's 7 o'clock.
Luis Elizondo is one of the key investigators. He's one of the reasons we're getting disclosure now. He was working for that ATIP program. He quit the ATIP program and formed a private organization. Now he's out there speaking. He's on a lot of interviews. I interviewed him. He said the phenomena does not seem to originate from any country. That's a really backhanded way of saying they're alien. Instead of saying they're alien, he just says, oh, they do not seem to originate from any country. Why don't you just say they're alien? Because you can't use the A word in public if you're a government person. That is a dangerous word, the A word. Okay, let me just keep going forward because I want to get to, now the key to the whole thing, this is Elizondo on Fox News. Fox News, for some reason, not my favorite channel. It's the only one who's really taking notice about the UFO situation. So Fox News interviewed Elizondo and he says,
I'm sure you've got the top physics experts in the world working on this. Can they come up with any explanation?
Any explanation of how these things accelerate at high speeds. There's no propulsion. I was saying before that what we're using to power our cars and jets is based on Newtonian science, which is 400 years old. The third law of thermodynamics, you put energy out, you get energy back. That's how we move our cars and everything. But obviously, they're not using Newton's laws to fly these objects. They're using something else.
Well, I think as we begin to look at this, we're beginning to realize that a lot of this really isn't breaking the laws of physics. What it's doing is really breaking our understanding of the current laws of physics that we are looking at. In essence, these things, if you look at quantum physics, there's a lot of modeling right now that suggests that a lot of this performance can be explained if you have a really deep understanding of quantum physics. And by the way, you're absolutely right. There's
All right.
5 unique
The key thing is quantum physics. If we want, like John Mack said, other ways of knowing to get what this phenomenon is about, we need to look at a different way of looking at science and physics. We need to reevaluate what the physical world actually is. You know, it's not really solid. It's forces of atoms that are creating electromagnetic fields that appear to be solid. But of course, we can walk right through those walls if we separate our molecules enough, because it's all empty space. It's all energy. It's all forces. So how do we do this? Well, we look at what quantum physics really says. Desiree likes to say, you know, quantum physics is so key to what these UFOs are, because when you see them, you're entangled with them. There's an entanglement, which is really key. Once something connects, once we connect, we are forever entangled, all of us. And then once you see these UFOs, and the more time you spend with somebody, the more entangled you are in your consciousness. But everything is entangled with everything else. You change a particle in one direction, it's going to change on the other side instantaneously. So there's entanglement that's involved in the new physics. Entanglement, there's something called superposition, where things can occupy more than one place at a time. That's how UFOs seem to appear here and there, because they are not, the key is collapsing the wave function. There exists in, I wouldn't call it probabilities, but a hyperspace dimension. This is what quantum computers do. A normal computer just will calculate the results of a problem. A quantum computer calculates probabilities. So when you're throwing a pair of dice, computer will say, okay, that's the answer. You get the dice land. I came up with this analogy in Las Vegas. So the dice lands, it's 7. That's your answer. That's one answer. But as you're rolling the dice, these 2 dice for 1 to 6 little dots on each little of this side, you have 36 possibilities of superposition, and they're in superposition. That's what quantum computers are calculating, the probabilities, not the results. When the dice land, you collapse the wave function, you say that's the answer. But the truth is everything is moving. There is no wave function collapse. There is no results. Everything is turning into everything else. It's just moving very slowly, but it's moving. There is no ultimate collapse of the wave function. Solid material objects dissolve like wave-like particles of probabilities and interconnections. Francois Capra, he wrote the Tao of Physics. He was one of the first physicists to kind of talk about physics in a kind of multi-dimensional spiritual way. Fred Alan Wolf states the premise of existence is independent of human thought, turns out to be in conflict. There is another key to quantum physics, that human or thought or observation affects reality. So whatever you're looking at, you are affecting it. You cannot separate the observer from the observed. There is no objective reality. This is Einstein proved this also when I said everything is relative to the observer. So ultimately, what are these ETs doing? They have sort of understood the laws of quantum physics and are operating their craft based on those laws. That's the key. Oh, wait.
And here we are, the granddaddy.
Oh, this is these, I'm just going to show, this cartoon's a little long, but Dr. Quantum is talking about the double slit experiment, where if you look at these beams passing through 2 slits, if you're looking at it, it's a particle, but if you're not looking at it, they're a wave. So, and they do this over and over again, and they don't understand how that was possible until I think it was Heisenberg said, well, the act of looking at the experiment affects the experiment. And that was a huge breakthrough in quantum physics. And what is looking? Consciousness is looking at the observation. We are consciousness, but consciousness is not in our brain. The brain is receiving consciousness like the radio is receiving a signal. If you open up the radio, you're not going to see some guy doing announcing in there. It's just, gears, a mechanism, just like your brain is receiving the awareness from your soul, from the higher conscious. You think you're in your body, but your body's really in you. Do you know what I mean? You do know what I mean. Can you explain that? Oh.
I can do a shot.
No, okay, what do I mean?
So it's what you mean is the body is a manifestation
of exactly. The body is a manifestation of awareness. Thank you. Yeah. So we think we're in our bodies, but the body is a manifestation of this awareness, and we're living in this world of illusion, Maya, and who we really are the super non-local beings that inhabit all of reality, all times. We live in multidimensional worlds right now, but we've been so conditioned by the forces that be to think that we're just here at this moment, at this time and space. All matter originates and exists only by a virtue of force. We must assume behind this force the existence of consciousness and the intelligent mind. The mind is the matrix of all matter. Max Planck said this, the creator of quantum physics. So, getting back to quantum physics, we are not simply bystanders on the cosmic stage. We are shapers and creators of a participatory universe. Levels in consciousness, it seems that the levels of consciousness shape the results of the observation. We're here to observe reality. The real validation must be made in the consciousness of people. This is the only way something becomes real, when it comes to the reality of your experience. Things only become real through your experience. Someone could tell you about something, but it doesn't really it's not truth until you've had an experience. Like there's lots of things with wild stories, but it's not real until you know it, until you've experienced it either through your mind, consciousness, or body. Now, I love this quote by Noam Chomsky, said, new levels of cognition can only emerge at new levels of awareness. So the key is to keep expanding what we think is possible. That's the idea. Science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, and that's because in the last analysis, we ourselves are part of nature, and we are part of the mystery we think we're trying to solve. So there is no ultimate answer to science. It's merging with the mystery, and when you do that, then a whole new level of cognition opens up to know that we're part of the mystery. Edgar Mitchell said, the experiencer of contact with non-human intelligence is the key that will open the door to understand what consciousness is. That's the precipice. That's the threshold we're on now. Who are these beings that are visiting us? What aspect of ourselves are they? You know, this is a quote from the Keys of Enoch, J.J. Hertog's book. J.J., you want to talk about this for a second?
It shows the limitations of the dualistic model of the mind that cannot really interpret the higher universe. It must come through what you call higher levels of communication. Proto-communication is now being understood in terms of the mechanisms of the particle and the wave that you refer to. But that's a subset of something even greater in terms of the consciousness physics that exists in consciousness throughout the universe.
Exactly. So this is JJ, who's been a student of consciousness. So how do we think differently? How do we think abstractly? The idea is here, I'll go back to this, is to think more with your right brain, not to say anything. Don't identify things. It's okay. Your left brain creates categories of experience. They say that's a chair, that's a floor, ceiling. And if you could think more with your right brain, you think more abstractly, you think more symbolically, you think more, so you're not collapsing the wave function into certain things. Thinking abstractly is how the ETs want to communicate with us. They want to communicate with, not through words, but through impressions, through symbols. The ability to think abstractly was the key to our survival as a species. So quantum physics, the idea of superimposition, apprehension versus comprehension. When you apprehend something, doesn't mean a fearful thing. It means you don't concretize the thing or what you're looking at into a single thing. If you look at a tree, for instance, and you call it a tree, you'll just pass it by and say, oh, that's a tree. But if you don't call it a tree, if you stand in front of this being and you just start with it, that being will start to talk to you, will start to communicate because you've taken away the categories of what is. Shamans do this all the time. They don't make categories of things. The shamanic ways of thinking are much more advanced than the Western linear mind. So that's the idea to free our minds, is to think abstractly. Look at abstract painting, create your own pictures in your mind. This is how the ETs, I feel, want us to graduate in our awareness of universal consciousness. It is not concretized, it's abstract, because as soon as you say, I know what this is, you're wrong. You've created a kind of separation between yourself. So it's the difference between signs and symbols. Sign is, you know what that is? That means you've collapsed the wave function. This is a stop sign. But if you put that stop sign in a painting or a photograph, it's no longer a stop sign. It becomes a symbol of stop. And symbols are much more expansive and infinite than signs. So we are here thinking. One of my favorite quotes about symbols by Goethe. He says, a symbol is a living, perceptual, instantaneous revelation of the unfathomable. But we know what that means. We know what a symbol means, even though we can't quite put into words. So it's like going beyond words into this abstract thought. That is what the impressions that these ETs, at least the ones I'm in touch with, are trying to communicate with us. Symbolic thought, which brings me to the point and the center of that book. This you see in the book, where these books. So I'll put them right here. There's a little asterisk here. And that, I really got to download that. That asterisk would be the whole meaning of that book. That is the point of contact. It is a symbol to give us a key beyond words. If you just looked at that asterisk, an asterisk means like little star. It is how you can make sense of what contact is all about. If you open your mind and step out into the stars, a night full of stars, and you kind of let go of your identification with yourself, with your own sense of being. I'm going to read the last line in the book because it kind of sums it up, by Albert Einstein, who was everybody's favorite author. He says, when you're looking outside, still there are moments when one feels free from one's own identification with human existence and where's my page turner? Human existence and inadequacies. At such moment, one imagines that one stands on a spot of a small planet around a yellow sun, gazing in amazement at the cold yet profoundly moving beauty of the eternal, the unfathomable. Life and death flow into one, and there is neither evolution nor destiny, only being. So just close your eyes and just drop into the being. Forget your identity. Forget your name. Drop into this moment of beingness, into that infinite moment of creation. And take your consciousness, your awareness. Feel that in your center. And bring that awareness to the top of your head. And bring it up to the ceiling. That awareness, put that on the ceiling. From the ceiling, go through the ceiling, going to put it out into the sky. And beyond the sky, we're going out to the stars. See a little blue star out there in space. Go star. Around that star is a planet. Descend through the atmosphere of that planet. See the beings there. They don't look like us, but they're there. They're waiting for you. They greet you. They're sending you love. They give you a little message to take back. It seems like only a few seconds, but you've spent eternities there. And you looked up through the atmosphere, back into the darkness of space, towards a yellow sun in the distance. And you see this blue planet, this blue orb. And you descend through the atmosphere from that blue orb, back through the top of the building, through the ceiling, through the top of your head, back into your body sitting here in the chair. With an expansion of where you've just been, because you've used your mind to travel beyond time and space. You have a message from those beings that you have been making contact with. And what is those messages? So half open your eyes, just stay in that altered state. Unopen completely. And you can see the reality of this room is shifted. And tell us the message you got from these things.
feeling really at peace.
Good. You got anything? What did you get?
I love the connection that they have with the world and with extraterrestrial objects.
Right. Thank you. JJ, what did you get?
Very bright and beautiful beings.
Very bright. What did you get, Victor?
Meat Bilu in Brazil.
What's that?
Meat Bilu in Brazil.
Meat Bilu in Brazil. Hi, what did you get? Love. I got sort of love too. They look like insect beings to me. What did you get, Deborah? Me too. So that's one form of making contact because the mind is infinite, the mind is eternal, consciousness, I mean. And we are connected to anywhere in time and space. We really are. And let me just, how much time do I have now?
7:18.
What? What time we finish here?
Well, 7:15, but that's okay. You go another-
I just want to show you a little picture of some of the beings that I met. But this image is by Kamara Jones here. These are multi-dimensional beings. These are the kind of beings that I went to. These are encoding of light languages, and they go beyond the linear understanding. The sacred geometries that are encoded in them are messages to our higher consciousness. Kamara Jones, look her up, Art Soldier 77 on Instagram. These really speak to me as higher levels of communication and consciousness here. You can sort of get what they're saying, but you can't put it into words because there's so much going on here. These are really downloads of multidimensional awarenesses.
Requires an expansion of our consciousness to work with sacred geometries and color patterns. And so that's the multidimensional language of light.
Right.
You've been trained by different light forms we see in the sky.
Right. These light forms are encoded into your bodies right now. As you gaze into this, these are the sacred geometries that are all around us that are giving you higher levels of awareness. Even though you don't know what these might mean, you kind of get it. This is our future. This is how we're evolving into these higher dimensional beings, these vortexual shapes. I mean, we are creating vortexes all the time with our mind. We're creating infinite understandings of possibilities of forever. So there's so much more that exists. I would just want to say that the ETs you meet, they might be yourself here. ET you meet might be yourself. We are the infinite beings that we're making contact with. That's the superconscious mind. It's beyond the body. It is the multidimensional aspects of our own self. It really is. Do you recognize it? Do you reckon?
Is that you?
Let me check. I think it is. It's me and my multidimensional ET self. So we are making contact, really making contact with ourselves. This is the ultimate. We are the ETs. That consciousness in that body is not of this earth. It's infinite. It's from forever. Yes.
Earthlings, we have 5 more minutes.
It's the voice. So who's the guy in Mark? Yeah. Yeah, we did not originate from Earth. I totally agree with that. No, we are from someplace else. So my book is an overview of the phenomena. I tried to lay out some of this from Roswell, from the hardware. Talked to Nick Pope here in the first chapter. He worked for the Ministry of Defense in the UK. He just talks about hardware. And then we go deeper and deeper into the science and the spirituality. That her talks have the 3rd chapter in this book. I also talked to Linda Moulton Howe, if you know who she is, Whitley Strieber. John Mack has a chapter in this book. It was a previously unpublished chapter that I asked his archivist for. I write about my own ET encounter experience. So if you really want to start making contact, this is a great primer for the next level, because they are coming. Ready or not, we are in for a rude awakening. So you might as well be prepared, because they, like I always say, they're not greater than us. They're equal. They may be more intelligent. They may have greater technology, but they're equal to us on a soul level of consciousness. That is the ultimate thing about these beings. They are wanting us to wake up because we are all entangled. We're entangled with their consciousness. If we're making war here, that's affecting them. It's like having a splinter in your little finger. It affects your whole body. We're the splinter. Let's get it out. Let's form wholeness and unity and awareness and consciousness. Let's grow up. Let's graduate. That book by Arthur C. Clarke was called Childhood's End, where the ETs did an end to war. So we can really be here for why we incarnated. You know why we incarnated? We incarnated to create, to live in joy, to be the great artists of reality, to bring in new levels of emotion and feeling. The flowering of humanity will be when we make peace with the earth and everyone can go about being the manifesting creator gods of the reality they want to live and create more beauty, more love, more feeling, and more possibility. This is the future. Thank you very much.
We want to welcome you to this present gift. I've known Ellen for 28 years plus.